All right, good evening. You're welcome to today's class. Today, we'll take a look at biology. So we'll start from the beginning of the subject biology. We'll start from the beginning. So biology is one of the few sciences. So biology is a science. Before we go into what biology is, let us have an overview of what is science. What is science? Science is just can be seen as is a scientific process of making inquiry about things in our environment. That is science. Things can be living things, it can be non-living things. So when you say science, science talks about inquiry. So and doing this inquiry requires using systematic method. As scientists are always at alert. Scientists observe what is going on in their environment. And if they notice something that is not usual, they try to find out, make inquiry, they try to find out what it is. But they don't do it haphazardly. They follow a process known as scientific method. So this will now lead us to what this scientific method is all about. As I say, science is all about making inquiry. Science seeks knowledge about the nature and make inquiry to find out what they observe, why it's like that, and why some certain things take place, some phenomena take place. Why is it like this? That's what science want to find out. Science want to find out, yes, it is. We notice this then, but why is it happening? That's a concern of the science. So if you bring it home to biology, biology inquires about living things around us, following systematic method. So if you understand the process of this inquiry, then there's nothing in science you will not be able to do what? Say one or two about. So when we talk about this scientific method, scientific approach, it's actually a process in science that involves making sequence of inquiries about an object or any other thing that is under study. Any other thing that is under study. So this scientific method has different steps. It has different steps. The first step, as I said, is in scientific method. Excuse me. Excuse. Okay, so the first method of this scientific method, this scientific approach is what? Hypothesis. Observation. As I said, scientists are always at alert because scientific method is actually systematic, evidence-based process through which we investigate natural phenomena in its entirety. And at the same time, we acquire new knowledge because it's when you observe, investigate a particular phenomenon, you are now the high tendency that you acquire the knowledge you don't even know about existed. You acquire new knowledge. Then sometimes you could help start to correct already existing one that's like not Dalton's atomic theory. It was through further science, further experiment further inquiry, investigation, and they found out that there are a lot of things about that things theory that needed to be modified. So not only new knowledge, a scientific method seeks to correct an already existing knowledge, previous knowledge. So as I say, the first step is what? Observation. The first step is what? Observation. So let me not talk too much on this. The first step is what? Observation. So what is observation? So observation is all about using human senses to do what? Notice, properly check, look into something that is not usual, something that is happening around us. So it involves use of human senses. That's all. To check out some things, what you've noticed that is not usual, or you want to find out why it is happening. So through observation now, if you observe that this thing happened this way every evening, okay, let me use something that is relatable. Let me bring it down to biology, because we are talking about biology. Let's assume now you notice that you before and you don't know that you didn't know that if you plant yam or anything, you know that, or you may not even be the one that planted it. Maybe the fruits or whatever, part of that particular plant that had ability to germinate was dropped in a particular place. You notice that as the plant is growing, it starts growing towards the window. The stem starts extending towards the window. What's going on? It will pass the window and go out. Usually, why is that? Why? There are spaces in this room, but why is it taking this window? It's an observation. Let's assume you didn't know anything about the effect of sunlight on growing plants. If you know that it's growing towards this direction, you get another plant again, it will bring your attention to it. Maybe you go and get another one again, another species, and drop it in that same room. Before it was going on, you start growing towards that particular direction, towards the window, where the sunlight enters, through which the sunlight enters the room. And you do it again. Now you observe the first time, second time you want to see it again, and it happened again. The third time it happened again. Now this call for further investigation. This is what's known as what? Observation. You do it again and do it again, and it's giving the same thing. You say no. We need to look into it, investigate. The process of this investigation is now what you call what? Experiment. But before you do that experiment, you do what is called hypothesis. Since you have kept that 3 different seeds or whatever in that room, and they germinate and grow towards that window, you can make a statement and say, whenever you drop a seed or close in the room and the seed germinates, the stem, the plant will grow towards the window. Is a statement of hypothesis. It may be true, it may be false. You don't know yet. So this is what's called hypothesis. It's actually a sensible proposal or reasonable assumption. Of course, even though it's an assumption, but at least it should be reasonable, because keeping something and it growing into that for 3 or 4 different plants. If you say that whenever you put you put a tendril or seed or whatever and it germinates, the plant will grow towards the window. It's a reasonable statement because you have observed it. But you cannot be so sure that it's true, whether it's true or not. So that's why it's called what? Hypothesis. Hypothesis. So this hypothesis is just a scientific guess, as I said, and it is subjected to be tested, verification, to know whether it's true or not. So this, for hypothesis now, we are going to what? Experiments. From hypothesis, we are going to what? Experiment. Experiment is nothing but testing the hypothesis. Test of the what? Hypothesis. That's what experiment is about. Through experiment, you want to scientifically test that your hypothesis to check whether it's true or not. Of course, while doing the experiment, you bring a controlled experiment. This one, you put every other factor constant. Be sure that every factor is constant, and watch that same plant. If it still grows toward that direction, then something is going on. So this is what experiment is what all about. So experiment, as I said, is a process of what? Is a process of what? Is a process used to test the what? Hypothesis. So through experimentation, hypothesis can be tested. Of course, during the experiment, you collect the data and analyze the data depending on the type of experiment you want to do what? Conduct. So if the data you collected may actually lead to new ideas about a particular phenomenon. So now, experiment is not just done anyhow. So let's look at the different steps for reporting, carrying and reporting experiment. The first step, the first thing to report is the aim. What is the aim of this experiment? So this talks about what you want to achieve through this experiment, the purpose for which you want to carry out the experiment. Then the second thing you report is what? The apparatus and what? Materials. Apparatus are just the equipment and small, like now, measuring cylinder, Bunsen burner, weighing balance, depending on the type of experiment you want to do what? Carry out. So these are just the equipment. Let me use the equipment. What you're going to use to carry out experiments. Whereas the materials are actually the seed, the main thing, not things that we are going to work on in order to generate your results. Things like seed, then there is the plants and other things that you want to use for the experiment. So these are the apparatus, materials. So now, the next, after the material, you talk about the method or the procedure. It talks about step-to-step action taken, or you take in do what? In carrying out the experiment, the steps you took. Of course, while reporting, your method should not come. You don't say I. No, don't personalize it. Not first person. Use reported speech. So thing was measured. 50 grams was measured. 20 mil was 50 grams was weighed. 20 mil was measured. So these are what we call what reported was speech. Don't say I or we measured. No, it's wrong. Then after the method, so the method now describes the process of the experiment. Then after that, now your results. So whatever result from the experiment, you report it under your results. So this is where you record what you saw or noticed during and after the experiment. So after the experiment now, you now have to do what? Analyze. After the result, you have to analyze your result and make inference. And after that, now you can now conclude an outcome. So in your conclusion, now that's where you now state whether the hypothesis, the result is in line with the hypothesis. If the result is in line with the hypothesis, then the hypothesis is what? True. And if the hypothesis is true, other different experiments will be carried out on that same aim by other researchers. If it has been carried out widely and it's still giving the same thing, an hypothesis keeps saying that it's in order, that means it will now become a what? Theory. it will become a what? Theory. But if the hypothesis is saying a different thing, if the result of the experiment is saying a different thing from the hypothesis, then the hypothesis is not what? The hypothesis is false. Depending on the level, the hypothesis you can go back and continue what the experiment. You can the whole experiment might be cancelled. You say you start fresh, or depending, the hypothesis can be corrected. You can make some amendment in the hypothesis, then continue. So these are steps of what? Test for what? Test for what? Hypothesis. Now, the hypothesis that as I said before now, the hypothesis that have been tested and proven to be correct is now become what? Will now become what? Theory. Will now become what? Theory. Then what is theory? Theory is a tested hypothesis that has been confirmed to be what? True. So like that one now, this example I gave about seed, about plants growing towards where there is what? Light. The experiment can be carried out. Getting seed for 10 days in a small bowl and put in a thermostat that rotates, put in a box. Some of the box will be exposed to it will be exposed to light, where light can actually penetrate, and watch as the tender is growing, the direction is going. There should also be a control experiment. And every other condition is kept constant. Control experiment, that one is the one without any space where the thing can go out, and watch two of them. Of course, if what is breathing equal, the one that has space, you still go and pass through that opening. But the one without this thing, it will not even grow because there will be no light to help it. Or you can make the hole, instead of making hole one side, you make the hole on top and see whether it will grow through up the hole straight. So if you go up the hole and this one go towards this direction where there's hole by the side of the box, don't need anymore to tell you that the hypothesis was correct. I just give a sketch of what I mean by experimenting. So if the theory over time, if the theory is extensively tested and is proven to be true beyond every reasonable doubt, it becomes a law or principle. So this is what scientific method is all about. Remember, I entered into scientific method because I was talking about biology as a science. So having look at scientific method, let us now go back to what biology is. So what is biology? I said biology is one of the pure science, others are chemistry, physics, and other mathematics. So also considered pure science in a way. Now, what is biology? Etymologically, biology is coming from two Greek words, bios and logos. Bios means life. Logos means study. Therefore, biology is simply defined as the study of life, study of living things. So biology is therefore science of life that range from unicellular, different levels of organism. So biology is basically the study of life, living things. So biology is categorically, broadly categorized into two: zoology and botany. Zoology talks about the study of what? Animals and how animals behave, how they feed, everything about their life history. But botany talks about plants. Botany studies plants, everything about plants. Now, but there are other specific areas biology covers. And some of these areas, biology form one of the basic sciences that form those areas. Things like morphology, study of structure, something like anatomy. Anatomy goes into study of what this about structure of cells and what are the tissues. It can be gross, it can be cyto, it can be histology, depending. Physiology that studies what body function. These things have biology as one of the basic sciences, foundation that form this aspect of biology I'm calling out now. Genetics, ecology, virology, bacteriology, microbiology, taxonomy, histology, evolution, that many of them embryology, many of them mycology. So all these are just some specific areas which biology contributes in forming as disciplines. So even though I cannot categorize them as totally branches of part of biology, but biology also help to form. Biology, one of the basic sciences that form these disciplines I just mentioned now. That's what biology is all about. Yes. Any question? Any question? All right, please, if you have any question, feel free to drop it on the comment section and I will attend to you. Okay? All right. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time. God bless you.